today is cut up a deer just like you cut it up at home on a kitchen table. Every year, I've done this for a living for a lot of years, but every year I see a lot of wild game get wasted, and because people don't have a place to take it to get it done professionally, or they just don't know what they're doing. So rather than use a saw like I have here, professional butcher equipment, we're just going to do this with stuff like you would have at home. And these are the tools I'm using. I've got a meat hook in my hand that will be helpful, and a small boning knife, and a butcher steel to keep the knife cleaned up. And I like to wear a pair of garden gloves because it kind of cuts down on the nicks and scrapes. But here we go. And there's one other tool I'm going to use. I'm going to use just a regular old hand butcher saw, but you could do the same thing at home with a hacksaw or even a sawzall, an electric sawzall. That'd be actually work just fine. But we're going to start here today by taking the front shoulders, the blade section off of the deer. And you do that either with your hand or with a hook. You kind of pull here, and you will find the blade bone underneath this, and you'll find that there's a seam that you follow, and it opens up, and it comes off. And you do the same procedure on the other side. This is a deer from archery season, so it's a little bit bloody underneath here, but we will clean that up as we go along. And one of the next things we're going to do here is we're going to break the front part, the front quarter of this deer, or the front half of this deer. We're going to break that off, and that'll expose this tenderloin section, which is the part you're going to want to keep in as big a piece as you can. And what you do is you look for a joint in the backbone. And if you can't find the joint, you can accomplish the same thing by just running the saw across there. And let's see, the next thing we'll do is we'll take off the rib section, so we'll be able to have something we can support this with when we go to cut it. And give yourself a mark down through here so you can know where you're going to saw. And try to make it somewhat equal with the other side. And then just saw this off. Like I say, you can use a hacksaw or a sawzall. This would be just a few seconds if you use the hand, if you use a power saw. If you don't have a power saw, we're pretending we don't. I'm trying my best to make this dot look like a big scratch, because it really shouldn't be. And when you do do this at home without a power saw, there's a little bit more waste, but it sure is less waste than if you just put it off and never got it done in the first place. Because every year, you go into areas where there's a lot of deer hunting, you can go to the dump, and find deer that have just had the backstrap taken out of them and the rest went to waste. Well, we're not going to do that. So here we go. We're getting something we can work with. And this is what's left here. What's left here is the hind quarter, or the hind half actually. And we're going to take this tenderloin section out and try to leave that in two easy pieces. And then we're going to pull the back part of the back strap that's off, and that's this section right in here. And I think where I'll start is I'll start taking the tenderloin out. This is the top part of it. And like I said, if you had a power saw, this would be split and it would be much easier, but like I said, we're just pretending we don't have one. So this is the start of pulling the tenderloin out. And when you do this with a knife, just go slow and find your way. And most of all, don't cut yourself. You want to get started down to the base of the loin, and you'll find a joint in there. And when you find that joint, that's when you want to use a saw to go across, cut it with a knife. A little hand saw or a saw will make it easier. So here we've got this tenderloin. And we're going to take that out one side at a time. You just follow your knife down both sides of the center of this. There's two tenderloins there. And slide your knife along under here. And the tenderloin will pull away. That's one side of it. And this is really a nice piece of meat. When it's cleaned up, it can just be used all sorts of ways. And there's some veins along the side that you want to clear out of the way. There, the finished product looks like a little piece of dark catfish, just what you want. And let's see, there's those veins, we want them out of the way. And the little bit of trim that we have here, that's what's going to be your ground meat or your stew meat. So here we've got two tenderloins. And now we're going to take this one part of the back strap, and what you do is you can feel along here, and this is the backbone. And you want to go down both sides of that.